You're sitting in a meeting, watching your colleague confidently present ideas they clearly don't understand. They speak with absolute certainty about concepts they learned 5 minutes ago. Meanwhile, the actual expert in the room stays quiet, doubting their own decades of experience. You see this everywhere. The loudest person at dinner parties knows the least. The most humble person has achieved the most. The one preaching morality behaves worst behind closed doors. Friedrich Nietzsche spent his life studying these psychological contradictions. He discovered that humans are walking billboards advertising exactly what they're trying to hide. The person who constantly talks about loyalty is planning to betray you. The one who claims to hate drama creates all of it. The individual who demands respect deserves none. Most people believe they're mysterious and complex. Nietzsche proved they're transparent and predictable. He identified specific patterns that reveal everything about a person's character within moments of meeting them. These weren't mystical insights, but observable psychological phenomena that repeat endlessly in human behavior. What made Nietzsche's approach devastating was his recognition that people reveal themselves most clearly when they think they're being clever. Their attempts to appear virtuous expose their vices. Their claims of strength reveal their weakness. Their moral pronouncements betray their secret desires. Each uncomfortable truth functions like a psychological X-ray, showing the hidden machinery behind human behavior. Master these insights, and you'll never be fooled by appearances again. The German philosopher who saw through everyone. Friedrich Nietzsche wasn't content with polite society's surface-level interactions. While others engaged in social pleasantries, he turned his analytical precision toward the most complex puzzle of all: why people say one thing while meaning another. What he discovered was a series of psychological patterns that made him one of history's most penetrating observers of human nature. In Beyond Good and Evil, Nietzsche wrote that one loves ultimately one's desires, not the thing desired. This insight captured his entire approach to human psychology. People aren't motivated by what they claim to love, but by what those claims do for them. The person who talks constantly about family values isn't expressing love for family, but satisfying their need to appear moral. Nietzsche's genius lay in recognizing that humans are fundamentally self-deceiving creatures who create elaborate stories to justify their actions. Rather than accepting people's stated motivations, he analyzed the psychological needs driving their behavior. He observed that the vanity of others runs counter to our taste only when it runs counter to our vanity. Even our moral judgments reveal more about us than about those we're judging. The philosopher's approach was revolutionary because he understood that most human behavior serves psychological rather than practical purposes. People don't argue to discover truth, they argue to feel superior. They don't help others from pure altruism, they help to maintain their self-image as good people. Nietzsche noted that there is no such thing as moral phenomena, but only a moral interpretation of phenomena. His method involved what he called psychological observation, a systematic approach to understanding the hidden forces behind human actions. Nietzsche believed that people operate from unconscious drives. They don't understand themselves. By identifying these drives, you could predict their behavior with startling accuracy. The philosopher developed his insights through careful study of academics, artists, politicians, and ordinary citizens. He noticed that people's strongest convictions often revealed their deepest insecurities. Someone who constantly preached about strength was usually weak. Someone who emphasized their honesty was typically deceptive. Nietzsche understood that human interactions are fundamentally about power. A living thing seeks above all to discharge its strength. Life itself is will to power. Most conversations aren't exchanges of information, but subtle competitions for dominance, status, or control. People reveal their position in these games through unconscious signals that trained observers can read like text. His psychological insights were so accurate that they made him dangerous company. People sensed that he saw through their facades, which made them uncomfortable. This social isolation reinforced his position as an observer rather than a participant, giving him even clearer perspective on human behavior. Understanding Nietzsche's method requires recognizing that he wasn't judging people morally, but analyzing them scientifically. He approached human psychology the way a biologist approaches animal behavior, looking for patterns, drives, and predictable responses rather than making value judgments about what he observed. The 7 uncomfortable truths that strip away all pretense. Nietzsche's psychological insights function like diagnostic tools, revealing the hidden machinery of human motivation. These truths are uncomfortable because they expose what people work hardest to conceal, but they're devastatingly accurate for reading human nature. First, people's strongest moral convictions reveal their weakest points. Nietzsche observed that moral systems emerge from specific psychological needs. Morality is in Europe today herd animal morality. When someone becomes passionate about a particular virtue, they're usually struggling with the opposite vice. The person who constantly emphasizes honesty is fighting dishonest impulses. The one who preaches about loyalty is battling treacherous thoughts. Second, the vanity of others runs counter to our taste only when it runs counter to our vanity. What annoys you most about others reflects what you're most insecure about in yourself. If someone's arrogance bothers you, examine your own relationship with pride. If their dishonesty disturbs you, look at where you compromise truth. People are mirrors reflecting your psychological blind spots. Third, those who demand respect reveal their lack of authority. Nietzsche noted that true power doesn't need to announce itself. When someone constantly reminds others of their position, credentials, or importance, they're revealing doubt about their actual competence. Genuine authority is recognized naturally. Manufactured authority requires constant reinforcement. Fourth, people reveal their deepest fears through their strongest condemnations. What someone attacks most viciously often represents what they're most afraid of becoming. Nietzsche understood that our judgments of others frequently mask self-directed anxiety. He who fights with monsters might take care lest he thereby become a monster. The person who harshly judges weakness fears their own vulnerability. Fifth, excessive concern for others' opinions signals absence of self-knowledge. Nietzsche believed that authentic individuals create their own values rather than adopting society's standards. People who constantly worry about what others think haven't developed their own value system. They're psychological chameleons, changing color based on their environment because they lack an internal compass. Sixth, those who speak most about their principles have the weakest principles. Genuine conviction doesn't require constant verbal reinforcement. When someone repeatedly states their values, they're usually trying to convince themselves as much as others. Strong beliefs are demonstrated through consistent actions, not through repeated declarations. Seventh, one loves ultimately one's desires, not the thing desired. People aren't motivated by external objects, but by what possessing those objects does for their self-image. The person who claims to love art may actually love being seen as cultured. The one who says they value intelligence may simply enjoy feeling superior to others. These patterns work because they target the gap between people's self-image and reality. Nietzsche recognized that most individuals have blind spots about their own motivations, making their unconscious drives visible to trained observers. Understanding these psychological mechanisms allows you to see past the stories people tell about themselves to the actual forces driving their behavior. Becoming psychologically unreadable yourself. Understanding Nietzsche's insights creates a choice: remain transparent to others or develop genuine psychological complexity. The philosopher believed that self-awareness was the path to becoming genuinely unpredictable and interesting. The first step is developing what Nietzsche called intellectual honesty, the ability to see yourself clearly without self-deception. Most people are readable because they don't understand their own motivations. When you know why you do things, you can choose whether to reveal or conceal those motivations strategically. Practice what Nietzsche termed becoming who you are rather than performing who you think you should be. Authentic people are harder to read because they're not following predictable scripts for social approval. They operate from internal values rather than external expectations, making their behavior less predictable to others. Develop genuine complexity by embracing contradictions within yourself. Nietzsche believed that interesting people contained multitudes. They could be both compassionate and ruthless, both confident and humble, depending on the situation. This psychological flexibility makes you harder to categorize and predict. Master the art of strategic revelation. Instead of unconsciously broadcasting your motivations, choose what to reveal and when. Share your vulnerabilities selectively. Express your opinions thoughtfully, and let people discover your depth gradually rather than immediately. Finally, cultivate what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. His formula for greatness was that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. When you're genuinely comfortable with who you are, including your flaws and contradictions, you stop sending the desperate signals that make most people readable. You become someone who observes rather than performs, understands rather than judges, and acts from strength rather than need. The ultimate goal isn't to become manipulative, but to become genuinely interesting. As Nietzsche understood, when you develop authentic psychological complexity, you become as fascinating to others as they've become transparent to you.